Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmic Weather for August. My name is Philip Young. I am a professional astrologer and tarot reader, and each month I try to cover the cosmic weather for what's coming up. And I want to do something a little bit different in this particular edition of it, largely because a lot of the things that are happening are going over long periods of time, and I've lately been really thinking a lot about being caught in liminal space. And liminal space is a state where things are in transition, but there's a discomfort around that transition. Things have not arrived where they need to be, and the distance of getting there is quite extensive, and a lot of things that are going on are disruptive. And to some extent, it's just about being persistent. And I think that's been a building message from the previous cosmic weathers. And I also want to perhaps be a little less technical in this particular version of it and really talk a little bit more about the meaning of the upcoming month. I'll mention a few astrological specific events that will be moments where energy will shift. But what I really wanted to talk about was kind of an overall theme for August of 2025 in terms of the impact of the astrology. And what I think we're going to feel is more of a month of measured momentum and inner alignment and some visionary breakthroughs. And some of this will be out in the world, but a lot of it's going to be for us as individuals. It's like, what is the measured momentum in terms of getting where you want to get in the circumstances of your story and how that's playing into what's going on in the wider world and how much of it's affecting you or are not affecting you depending on your actual story. And then I think we're all working with a tremendous amount of realignment. And I think some of that realignment is being defined by radical changes out in the world in terms of power structures, in terms of institutions that are somewhat hollow. And I think we're really seeing how hollow they are. The emergence and continuing thrust of AI and what it's going to bring to the world and is already starting to bring to the world, and where that's going to leave us as that becomes more part of just the normal setup of daily life. So to me, it feels like August will be another kind of pivoting month. I think we're in a series of them. I would say that 2025 and 2026 will be the moments where we could either use the term rock bottom, things will hit a bottoming point and then start building back up again. We could say that there's going to be a catalytic, this will be a highly catalytic time in which some things will bring about changes that will really put a world that's the past behind us and a new world coming in at a bit of a breakneck speed in its own way. So we are going to see more retrograde energy in August. There will be, of course, a series of transitions that will happen with the planetary movements and some evolutionary tension that I think is just going to be part and parcel of this period of time while we have a number of planets that are moving back and forth between signs that are major slow moving points that are in the outer sphere. So we have Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune all transitioning back and forth between two signs in 2025 and settling in permanently in 2026. And so that's the liminal space. That's the disruption that we're really going to continue to feel because these points are not settled in their new energy. They are still unpacking the old energy. They're crisscrossing this energy. So if it does feel like that things are just a little bit either out of control or not moving, or they're moving, but we're not sure where the end point's going to be, that's kind of the weather that we're caught up in right now. So what I do think we'll have is some breakdowns that lead to breakthroughs. That's going to happen as part of August energy, which has been happening really since the beginning of the year to a certain extent. And this will involve Neptune, Pluto, Saturn, and Uranus because they're all at these 1 degree, 0 degree positions in August. So now it will turn out that Neptune will work its way back, Saturn will work its way back. They're both retrograde right now. Uranus is retrograde, but for the time being, they're all right at that 1 degree mark. And so we're going to continue to see these tensions in leadership, technology, power structures, shakeups that are not going to be just chaotic, but they're going to be catalysts for reinventing the systems that better reflect a new collective empowerment. And I think that is really being defined by the increasing impact of social media and shifts that social media is bringing in how we gather our news, how we understand information, how we learn, in fact. That's another part of what's going on when we look at the ability to try to figure something out. I mean, if you actually want to learn something, that quite honestly, YouTube is a tremendous tool along with AI. I mean, if I want to know how to maybe work on something with my car. I've never tried it before. Just thought, you know what? I think I want to pop the hood of my Chevy Impala, and I would like to know how to do something with how would I change spark plugs on this? Just as a curiosity. I'm probably confined to YouTube video and a combination with some AI and get the tools that I need, and I could hack at it. I could actually give it a go. That's the kind of world that we are evolving into. And it's one of the reasons why some larger institutions, like educational institutions, are going to see themselves really facing new competition. Same with getting news from bloggers and YouTubers and people that are actually in the industries that have decided to start channels of their own. I certainly learned quite a bit about what was going on with how trade was functioning by going to a number of YouTubers who are actually the owners of shipping companies that just happen to want to do YouTube videos about their shipping business and what's happening in their business at the ports that are on each of the coasts. Found that far more interesting and far more informative than watching anything that was being said on a major news network. So another part of it with the shifts that are going on is Saturn and Neptune are conjunct in Aries, and they are actually going to be creating a complementary relationship with Uranus, which just went into Gemini. So there will be an opportunity to build some dreams and see things again manifest. But it isn't going to be just on idealism. There's going to be grounded action that we'll see showing up more and more in the month of August. And innovation is going to accelerate. Uranus going into Gemini, and that's forming a complementary energy with Pluto, which happens to be in Aquarius. So we're going to continue to see breakthroughs in technology, communication at a high rate of speed. And again, we'll see more and more use of AI being implemented to become a permanent part of what is done technologically. The example I would give that will make it concrete is I play solitaire on my phone when I'm taking a break from things, and it runs ads all the time. And one of the most recent ads was for website design using one of the companies, I think it was Wix, and they were promoting Wix is now developing websites with AI, and you can develop your website much faster with AI, and they're announcing it. They're pointing out, hey, look, we are a website design company and we have AI. A year from now, when Uranus goes permanently into Gemini, there won't be any reason to talk about websites being designed with AI because that's just how they'll be designed. And so that is where we are right now, is that there's a recognition that AI is coming in, but it will then become what is just the way things are done. So what August looks like to me is more of that energy of more and more of it coming in to become what it's going to become. Now, in terms of personal energy, and this is one of the things I wanted to sort of maybe adjust, is that if you happen to know your chart, if you've ever had your chart done, or you can pull your chart up using astro.com, or you can use Cafe Astrology, or you can use any number of sites, or maybe you have an app on your phone and you pull your chart up. The sun is going to be moving from Leo into Virgo on August the 22nd. And so if you know where Leo is in your chart, like for example, Leo is at the top of my charts in my what is called the 10th house. So it's right at the very top of my chart, and it's going to go into my 11th house. Now, what this means in practical terms is that the 10th house deals with career, public self, prosperity, and the 11th house deals with community. So right now, the better part of this month is a month for me to really focus on what I'm doing career-wise, and then to think about how what I'm doing in this month is going to eventually have an impact on my community, the people that those of you that are listening to the video, and those of you who may share the video. So as the sun goes into Virgo, it will be focused on the energy of service. And specifically for me and my chart design, it will have to do with doing that in the community. So if you do happen to take some time to maybe run your chart, this would be one of the things to know. And then Mercury, starting out the month, is retrograde. It will go direct on August the 12th. It's retrograde currently in Leo. I always feel it's important to explain that Mercury retrograde is not a time to resist doing things. It's a time to take your time to do things. And so the example I use each time is speed limit. Mercury direct is like going down the highway at 70 miles per hour. When Mercury goes retrograde, it's like you're coming into the city limits. The speed limit changes to 35. As long as you slow down and you go 35, you can go through the city limits with no problem. You can do everything you want to do under a Mercury retrograde. You can sign contracts, you can travel, you can do anything you want as long as you're following the speed limit. The problem is people don't slow down. And that's what really creates the disruption, is that you're trying to drive 70 through a 35 zone. And that's what creates all the problems. Now, what's interesting, of course, is when it's retrograde in a particular sign, like it is in Leo, this can indicate maybe the opportunity to reflect on your creative energy and what you do creatively. You can reflect on relationships that have that leonine energy of playfulness and a desire for performance. And you might want to look at, what is it that I'm doing that I enjoy? Do I still enjoy the same things? Are there people coming into my life that maybe are returning? A lot of times with Mercury retrograde, we'll hear from people we haven't heard from in a while. And that may raise questions for us. So a lot of this is also about the lessons that Leo brings, which are lessons in pride and expression and telling your story in a creative and authentic way. So, if Leo is prominent in your chart, this retrograde Mercury will absolutely be significant. It will have an important role to play in terms of your story. And so, anytime a point is in a sign that is tied to your sun or your moon or your ascendant, it's going to play a little bit more strongly for you in each of those periods of time. Now, Venus will be moving from Cancer and into Leo, and that will happen later in August. And that will be on the 25th when it actually transitions. And, the Venusian energy in Cancer really is about making emotional connections. Once Venus gets into Leo, it's going to be about having a good time and having some fun. So once again, knowing what's going on in your own chart is the best way to understand how the weather is really going to affect you, as well as what it's doing on a larger scale. But the Venus Cancer energy, while it's there, is for all of us to think about, what relationships matter to us emotionally, and how do we connect with people in a way that is nurturing and caretaking. And then we're going to be headed towards some energy that's going to be more about having fun with those. Who do we enjoy spending time with that makes us laugh? Who is it that we would want to go on a trip with because it'd be fun and exciting? As opposed to, if we go on a trip under Cancer's Venus, we want to go with someone that we feel emotionally connected to. Now, Mars will be making its transition through Virgo and into Libra pretty quickly. It'll do it early in the month on August the 6th. And the placements here are about perfecting details and taking preferred actions that are about balancing oneself. So this is the measured momentum. So these examples of these transitions are how we're trying to move forward, but in a thoughtful way. And that really also has to do with that Mercury retrograde playing out for the first part of the month. And so there is going to be a number of additional retrogrades. We've got Mercury, Saturn, Neptune, Chiron will be going retrograde, and Pluto all retrograde in August. So this does slow things down energetically and actually functions as a recalibration. So here's a good word for this cosmic weather. What do you need to recalibrate in your life? Is there a recalibration that needs to be done in relationship? Is there a recalibration that needs to be done with work? Is there a recalibration that needs to be done in sort of your own sense of purpose and what you're trying to accomplish. And one thing's for sure is that things are being rerouted on a very large scale that are then having an impact on a much smaller scale. And I would say that August is going to have some of the similar energies of shift that we've seen in the previous 2, even 3 months. And that's going to continue. We're really going to have this, again, liminal space energy operating quite honestly. And I know sometimes it's hard to hear when I do these videos, but we're not going to get out of liminal space probably until 2027. So it's this idea of how do we manage it? How do we move through it? What can we accomplish while we're in spaces of transition and we're watching the world around us go through transformations that we're not in control of, but we will have to deal with as they take effect. So what can we do individually? That's again one of the things I want to change around a little bit is less technical and more thoughtful. And what that means is that with a lot of this retrograde energy, the first thing we can do is review our goals, review our emotional habits, and don't rush decisions. One of the things that absolutely, it's a good example is sometimes they say when you're frustrated or you're anxious and you write an email, don't send the email immediately. Let it sit for a few hours and then go back and read it after you've gotten out of your anxious state or some time has passed. That is a good pattern for the month of August. Anything that you need to do, any decision you need to make, whether you're buying something that's as significant as a home or a car, or maybe you're just making smaller decisions, allow yourself to not rush. Allow yourself to reflect. The other thing is, if there are things you've started, this is a good month to refine what you started. One of the things about Virgo energy is that it's ideal for edits, routines, and health. So this is also a really good month to look at your health and to see if there's something you need to do to improve your health or to take care of your health, as well as look at any of the routines you have and make sure that they're still providing you with outcomes that you want. The other thing that we can do this month is try to relate more thoughtfully. Mars going into Libra really does want a type of collaboration with less conflict. And so we certainly could do with a little less bombast and a little less righteous anger to get to a place where we can have better conversations with people that are close to us and people that are around us and sort of get out of the binary thinking that is us versus them. We really need to think about through this retrograde energy is what is it we do share with everybody? And what are those things that we might be able to latch onto, like questions around safety and security and so forth. We may have different values about it in terms of what it specifically looks like, but usually we share those common grounds. The other thing is to reconnect. This is reconnection at a personal level, but also maybe even reconnecting with people in our lives that we've lost connection with. This can be a good month for that, especially again with the amount of retrograde energy that's involved. And I think that would be tied to the energy of Chiron going retrograde this month because there's a healing component of that. And then, on a maybe a higher level with these retrogrades is to kind of reclaim one's spiritual authority, and that is going to be tied to I think, the Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries. So, kind of in a way, I would look at this month as a bridge between who you were and who you're becoming. And that's what's functioning on a worldwide level. The world is something that it once was, is not anymore. It is becoming, but it hasn't fully arrived at the becoming conclusion. And that, again, is why I say liminal state. And then we've got these retrogrades that can help us recalibrate. There's a number of trines going on that can be very inspiring. And there are also some oppositions that will bring about a chance to rebalance. So what I would say going into August, and it will carry over to some extent in September because there will be additional retrograde energy that piles on in September as well. But in August, it really is an opportunity to just, for those of us that can and choose to do so, step back and observe because this energy isn't going to support really trying to rush and push and demand. You can still get the results you want, but it will be coming through more of an energy of allowing and being persistent in a thoughtful way rather than rushing and trying to drive it home aggressively. That energy just can show up. It can certainly be absolutely active out in the world, but the results will probably not be what the people that are using that energy will want, or they'll be frustrated in terms of not getting it. So, in terms of just kind of a recap of where things are going to be, communication is still in Leo for the entire month. The retrograde is going to allow Mercury to stay in Leo for 9 weeks. So, communication should be creative, it should be exciting, it should be fun, and it should be also thoughtful in the sense of how we're trying to lead through our thoughts, through our communication. The Venusian energy is going to be shifting into Leo, but not until August the 25th. So the majority of it's still going to be in Cancer, and that's going to be about, these relationships that matter to us on an emotional level and connect with us on a compassionate level. Now, Mars will start out in Virgo, and then it will actually go into Libra pretty quickly. It will go in on August the 6th. And so again, this is about Libra's energy is about how do we negotiate? How do we tone down the sort of aggressive energy that Mars offers and create some space for real dialogue, real thoughtful dialogue, a search for common ground. Now, as I said, there's quite a number of retrogrades. We've got Mercury, we've got Saturn. Chiron will actually have gone retrograde right at the end of last month on July 31st, so it's retrograde going through August. Neptune is retrograde, Pluto is retrograde. So, all of this retrograde energy is to help us really think about what it is that matters and how we deal with disruption that is happening on a global scale, a national scale, and then maybe on a personal scale. And in terms of the planetary interactions that will be going on, a lot of these are going to be some long-term flowing energies. Neptune and Pluto are forming a flowing energy. Saturn and Neptune are merged together right now. That means that Saturn and Neptune are flowing with the energy of Pluto. They're also flowing with the energy of Uranus because we've got Saturn and Neptune in Aries, which is the fire sign. We've got Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus in Gemini. These are air signs, so fire and air energies actually work well together. So there's a lot of energy that's pushing things forward pretty aggressively and giving it a lot of flow. So if you're in the right mode, you're in the right frequency for yourself under these transits, which will be running, at least one of them is running until October 22nd. The other one's going to be running until September the 1st, so all the way through this month. That there is opportunity here to move things along as long as you're doing it in a thoughtful way and you're doing it in alignment with what's best for your own energy. And then again, this is all at the beginning of the month. It's all sort of front ending there, and it's really doing quite a bit. There is still going to be some disruptive energy that will once again mean that we have to be thoughtful about what we're doing so that we are not getting ahead of ourselves. Quite honestly, there's a lot of patience in August that we're going to have to embrace, and a lot of it's going to be on a personal level trying to figure out how we do this rework, like the recalibration, the reclaiming, and so forth. And these energies are going to play throughout the entire month. In fact, most of the month is going to be energies that we enter in with. They're going to carry through out the entire month. And it isn't until the end of the month that we actually get a particularly challenging energy where Mars will be challenging Jupiter. And that will be where we start to see maybe some repercussions of things that are problematic. This could be continuing price rising in certain areas, whether we're talking about rents being rise, inflation still being in effect, and so forth. So, what I guess I can offer for August is that we're going to continue to be stuck sort of in between, and how to navigate that is to take on the tasks that you want to take on and get them done in a methodical way without projecting too far out in the future And quite honestly, where we are passing through right now is there's not a lot of value in looking back in the past at the moment. That's one of the things that this liminal space I think is really introducing is that the world we once knew is really not going to be available. I'll end with a very funny video that I found that was a father talking to his teenage daughter, 16-year-old daughter, and he was asking her to guess what some things were. And the first one he started with was the Yellow Pages. And her guess was that it was the name of a band. So it for the generation of you that are watching this video that are of the same generation, we know what the Yellow Pages are. We know that that was essentially in a phone book, which again, the generation that's coming up never seen. And the Yellow Pages being the pages where you would go to look for businesses to hire to get things that you needed. And the only way you would know that that's what they were is because those pages were yellow. But for someone that's being introduced to that idea, something so common to us, gone, right? And where we're headed in terms of a new digital age, that's where, as I say, we're right now at the place where everyone is talking about AI coming in, but in another year, AI will be arrived. And this is the time where a lot of things are transitioning and trying to figure out where they're going to position as to what they're going to be. What's going to be the potential role of cryptocurrency? What's going to be the potential role of these technologies that are happening now that are tied to AI? A lot of things like that. So what I really wanted to do with this cosmic weather is indicate that for a while the months are going to be very much about this, but we're going to feel a little bit of energy kind of slowing down because of the all of the retrogrades. And again, we're going to even get more retrograde energy going into September. So there is going to be that both forward momentum in terms of developing things, but yet an energy that we need to have of trying to take our time and how we deal with it. That would be the strongest message I could offer for the cosmic weather for this particular month. And as always, if you find this information helpful, please share this with anyone that you think would benefit from sort of knowing how this works. And again, always, I would like to encourage you, anytime you can, learn your chart. Learn about your chart because once you can start connecting some of this energy and information to the actual placement within your chart, you'll get even more value out of the experience. Until next time, everyone stay safe and be well.